Okay, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our Building and Application Budget Workshop. And this is for both our program support and our artist support applicants. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know a couple of things. We'll take questions after the presentation, so please add your questions to the Q&A down there at the bottom of your Zoom screen. At the end of our presentation today, you will receive a brief anonymous Zoom survey. So please complete that so we can know how we're doing, what we can get rid of, and what we can add to make these more useful for you. And the recording, this is being recorded, will be available on the website early next week so that you can refer back to anything that you find useful here. For those of you that have attended our past webinars this past 2 or 3 weeks, just so you know, the first part of it is going to be a little redundant for you because we're going to go as we look at the agenda, we're going to go over a few things that we have looked at in the past. So just to get that out of the way, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation, which is about building those budgets. I just said hello, and this is my colleague, Chloe Smith, who is the Grants and Programs Manager. I am Ann Haubrick, the Grants and Programs Senior Manager, and we're very happy to be here. We'll go over the RAC priorities, the RAC workshop series overview, how to access the application, the eligibility for both program support and artist support, the artist support overview, the program support overview, and then we'll get to building an application budget. And please put your questions in that question area. So our mission and vision. As the leading public catalyst for arts and culture in St. Louis, the Regional Arts Commission leverages the power of creativity to strengthen and enrich our community. RAC envisions a full creative life for every St. Louisian, St. Louis as a growing and captivating arts and cultural destination, and RAC envisions a community rich with opportunities and resources that promote and sustain artists.
RAC's guiding principles are that we invest in the region's arts and culture through our grants, programs, and special initiatives. We believe in diversity, racial equity, accessibility, and inclusion. We build partnerships that strengthen our community. We are passionate champions that support and recognize artists, and we believe every child deserves a well-rounded education that includes the arts.
Our core values embody our culture, spirit, and dedication to living our mission. They keep us grounded and help us make good decisions about everything we do. We are passionate champions for arts and culture. We are accountable stewards of the public trust. We are committed to practices that promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We are socially and civically engaged community catalysts, and we are servant leaders.
RAC's mission, vision, guiding principles, and core values are a balance between our passion and interest and the needs of our community. The Grants Committee and Grants team have worked to be sure our new grant cycle reflects our mission, vision, principles, and core values, which helps to ensure that our process runs smoothly or as smoothly as possible.
And if it doesn't run smoothly, give us a holler. We're here to help.
And
Chloe
now
is going to go over. Oh, sorry. You're going to go over the.
And I was just saying,
sorry.
now we're going to go over our workshops.
Yay.
Yeah. So currently we've had the basic grant application writing workshop for program support and artist support grants. We've had the artist statement workshop for artist support grant applicants only. VLAA has presented their financial statements clinic. We did a narratives workshop, which was for program support and artist support grants. And now we are to building your application budget. All of the prior workshops will be on the website. They're linked. They'll take you to our YouTube and you can watch those. We really think that they'll be helpful in filling out aspects of this year's application. And then following the workshop today, we'll have completing the RAC Artist Support Grant application, which will be Monday of next week on the 13th from 3 to 4 p.m. And then finally, our last workshop will be for completing the RAC Program Support Grant application, which will be Tuesday, February 14th from 3 to 4 p.m. And both of those will be virtual live sessions.
Right, and for those sessions, we really want to know what help you need to complete your application. So if you've got questions and feel like it's too long to email us, please feel free to attend that. We'll be taking your questions and just going over some of the high points of the application process. I'm going to go over the program support eligibility. There's a local focus, so arts programs and projects must occur in St. Louis City or St. Louis County. Your organization must be a 501c3 in good status as a nonprofit corporation in the state of Missouri and a 501c3 tax exempt status from the Internal Revenue Service, or be a unit of federal or local government, such as a library, county, or municipal agency. Our grant cycle. Arts programs and projects must occur during the applicable grant cycle, and an organization may submit only one application per grant cycle. The proposed program's primary purpose, PPP, must be the creation, presentation, or utilization of art. And the grant cycle takes place. The programs for which you're applying must take place between July 1, 2023 and June 30. That should actually be June 30 of 2024. There's a couple of restrictions. Check those restrictions out on our website. Things like you can't use our money for tuition assistance. You can't use the money for benefits or fundraisers or award programs or cash reserves, endowments, those kind of things. But do please check out those restrictions on the website.
Great, and now I'll go over the artist support eligibility. There is an age requirement. We do require that all artists are 19 years or older. There's a non-graduate student requirement, meaning that the artist is not enrolled as a full-time undergraduate student. We ask that there is a local focus, meaning that the artist is a current resident of St. Louis City or County and has maintained primary residence in St. Louis City or County for at least 1 year, and will require verifiable documentation in the application for that. We have a current work requirement, which means that in the past 3 years, the artist has created and presented their own original works to the public or performed for the public. And then we'll require verifiable documentation there as well. That will be your resume or your CV. And then finally, for the artist collective, that at least one of the artists has created and presented their own original works in the past 3 years, and the collective has created and presented for at least 1 year, and will also require verifiable documentation with that. And then another note is just that all of these requirements apply to individuals and artist collectives, except for the differentiation in the 3 years.
Chloe, do you want to mention a couple of the restrictions that artists should be looking at before they apply?
Yeah, great point. So like Anne mentioned with program support, we go into more of the restrictions in the guidelines and on our website. But things that, you couldn't apply for would be tuition assistance or paid vacation time.
Very good.
And now we can go over accessing the application, what that will look like this year. So what you'll do is that there will be a link on the RAC website. Don't look, it's not there yet, but it will be there. And you'll click that link. And if you haven't, you'll want to create an account, and you'll select create account right where the cursor is. And that's if you did not apply in 2022 and you do not have an account in our grant making system. Then you'll want to create an account. You'll provide your email, confirm that, and then also create a password. And then for program support, if you're a program support grantee and let's say you've logged in or you've created an account, you'll have an extra step where we'll ask that you enter in your tax ID in order to access the eligibility quiz. But know that if you see that, you're on the right track. And then finally, you'll go to the eligibility quiz, and then you'll be able to answer those questions to access the application. And now we'll talk about the grant review criteria for artist support and program support.
Yeah, and going back just momentarily to that accessing the application, we plan to have that portal open on Monday, sometime in the afternoon Monday. So you can begin looking at that and filling in your application then, if you so desire. Okay, program. So this is the our criteria for artist support and program support. And So the first one is cultural and or artistic essentials, and that is weighted at 40%. So the responses to these questions, these three questions, are weighted a little bit heavier than the other two criteria. For artist support, that is a culturally and artistically significant practice or work that contributes to the creative life of the artist and ultimately to St. Louis. For program support, it's an organization that produces or presents culturally and artistically significant work that supports a full creative life for every St. Louisian.
Our second review criteria is community benefit, which, like Anne mentioned, is weighted a little bit lower at 30%. For artist support, this means an artist demonstrates broad community benefit with a practice or work and contributes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the community. For program support, this means a program that demonstrates broad community benefit and contributes to advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the community.
Capacity and sustainability is weighted at 30%. Artistic support. Artist is intentional about artistic practice capacity and sustainability. And program support, an organization that intentionally plans for program capacity and sustainability.
Great. Now we're going to go through the application questions, and I'm going to start off with artist support. So our first question for artist support will be regarding essentials. We'll ask that you provide an overview of your grant request, indicate if your funds will be used for a personal need to support your artistic practice or for a public project. And this is where we'll ask you to upload that artist support statement, or your artist statement. Your second question will be regarding artistic significance. We'll ask that you explain the artistic intention of your work and or practice. The third question will be regarding program goals. We'll ask, what does success look like for this artist, project, or need? And to identify and explain your goals, objectives, and outcomes. The fourth question is about audience. We'll ask that you identify who is your community or intended audience. If you are applying to fund an artist's need that is not public facing, please address how having that need met or funded will affect your community contribution as an artist. When responding to this question, feel free to share how your work impacts people beyond the arts and culture community. The fifth question will be about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We'll ask, how do you and or your practice or work contribute to diversity, equity, inclusion, and or accessibility of neighborhoods, communities, or the entire St. Louis region? The sixth question will be about community engagement. We'll ask, how is the work relevant to the selected community or location? Do you have community partners in this work that are official or unofficial? Who are they, and in what ways do these partners inform your work? The seventh question will be about budget. We'll ask that you provide a budget narrative and upload your budget. The eighth question will be about artist capacity, where we'll ask you to describe your ability to carry out the proposed project or your regular practice based on such factors, such as resources involved or outlined and or your qualifications. And then we'll ask that you upload your CV or resume there. And then finally, your ninth and last question is regarding sustainability, where we'll ask that you provide a project or practice growth and development statement. And then the required uploads for artist support grant that were mentioned within those questions are the proof of residency documentation, which could be a voter registration, automobile registration, income tax or property tax receipt. And then you'll need to provide this for each member of an artist collective if you are applying as an artist collective. Another required upload is the artist statement, which can be a narrative document or a link to a 90-second video. There's a budget template that's a required upload, which you'll download from the RAC website, which we'll be talking about here today. There's a resume or CV for individual artist or for each artist in the artist collective that will be required. We'll allow you to upload up to 3 work samples and to provide a list of contact information for each member of the artist collective if applicable.
And then the program support application questions. You'll notice that we've tried to make this very simple. So there's 9 questions for artist support, 9 questions for the program support, and they're along the same lines. So the program support application questions are, number 1, have to do with the essentials. Provide an overview of the program or programs. What is the purpose of the program for which you are applying? How does the program support the mission of your organization? Number 2, cultural and artistic significance. Explain the program's artistic intention. Who are the artists and or creatives involved in implementing your program? And then you'll upload up to 3 work samples. Question number 3, program goals. What does success look like for this artist project or need? Identify and explain your goals, objectives, and outcomes. Number 4, audience. Provide an overview of your program's intended audience. Number 5, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Describe how your organization is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Also describe how your program makes intentional efforts to attract and or retain diverse audiences and increase access to the arts for underrepresented individuals and or under-resourced neighborhoods. If your organization has a board-approved DEI statement, policy, or plan, please upload a PDF of it. If you don't have one, please indicate your organization's intentions of developing such a document or documents, and then there's a place to upload that document. Number 6, community engagement. How is the work connected to the community, location, or context? Do you have community partners for this program, official or unofficial? Who are they? In what way do these partnerships inform or support your work? Number 7, budget, which is what we're going to talk about today. Upload your program budget and provide a budget narrative describing the organization's ability to carry out the program based on factors such as people and financial resources. And then you upload the budget. Number 8, organizational health. Upload the provided organizational health worksheet. You'll upload that. And that is downloadable at our website. You'll find that online. And then number 9, sustainability. Please provide a program growth and development statement. And here's a list of the required uploads and program support. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, which is explained in the guidelines, you'll want to upload that fiscal sponsorship letter if that's applicable. A board of directors list, including the roles and affiliations of those people, the program budget, the financial statements for the 2 most recently completed fiscal years or your most recent audit, up to 3 work samples. A critical review is optional. And then the DEI statement, policy, or plan is also optional. And then the organizational health worksheet.
Great.
All
And
right.
now we'll talk about building an application budget.
It's very exciting.
And we're going to start with the basics. So what is a budget? A budget is a fundamental tool for planning, marketing, and project managing. It is a guide to help you design a quality project or program. And it's a way to help you avoid overspending, as well as a story that reflects the ultimate cost of the finished project or program. And the application budget is the basis for a funded project or program's contract with RAC. A budget is a forecast of financial activity that shows income, which is money coming in, and expenses, which is money going out. It shows that income and expenses over a set period of time.
If I may real quick, Chloe, if, in
Sure.
this case, RAC's program year is July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. So just keep that in mind.
Great.
Thanks, Chloe.
Great note. And then finally, a realistic budget will lend credibility to your application and will build trust.
So I just want to add a couple of things here. The realistic budget will make it clear to application reviewers what the grant, if awarded, will be used for. So keep that in mind. We understand that you may not consider yourself a money or a numbers person, and we also understand that artists and arts organizations need to consider the operational part of the creative process or arts and cultural production and presentation. You all need to pay rent on studios or venues. You need to compensate collaborators, purchase materials, and that you incur and other expenses in order to realize your vision. And you need to figure out how to pay for these items. So that's all a part of what that budget is. Where to start? It begins with expenses. So remember, do you remember what expenses are? Chloe said a little while ago, it's money going out. So it's what you're going to pay for. So first of all, you should fill in the must-have expenses first and estimate their cost. Do your research. Get the most informed pricing estimates possible on those items. And then keep track of where those prices come from in case you need to actually do that. Include, and these will vary widely depending on your request, personnel, which means staff and contractors. Artists, remember to pay yourselves. We're not going to go into how to figure out here how to pay yourself, but remember to be realistic and fair. Figure out what your time is worth. Organizations, everyone who contributes to your project, including vendors, consultants, performers, and crew, should be included in that. Also, pay attention to your space. Is that studio or rehearsal space, performance space, storage, fabrication space, display, administrative space, office space, etc. For technology, those could be things like apps or programs, remotes, microphones, integrated software, cameras, etc. Equipment, that could be just about anything that you need to carry out your program or your project, and also supplies. For each line item of your expense budget, add a note to self about how you calculated those costs. That can be useful in your budget narrative. An example of this is if you have a line item for musicians at $5,000, your calculation would be noted as 5 musicians times 20 hours times $50 an hour. The more detail you put into your planning, the more flexibility and ease you will have to make changes throughout the life of your program or project. When budgeting for essential items that have a wide range of possible costs, such as flights, venue rental, etc., use a mid-range or mid-high number, not the cheapest quote to be found. That way, you're going to be right-sizing your budget, actually, and include as many expense lines as you think you might incur. And just a note here, our budget templates, you will be able to add or take away those lines within that form so that that budget form works for you. And now we're going to move on to income. Remember what income is? That's money coming in. So we know you're going to be rich. Begin with the known or already received funding or commitments from funders or sponsors. Are there grant opportunities that you plan to apply for? Is there earned income? Will you sell tickets? Will you sell art, etc.? And then make room for individual contributions. For organizations, this could mean annual campaigns, special events, etc. For artists, this could mean crowdfunding or sponsorship. And then this is important, make efforts to diversify your revenues. And what does that mean? This means showing income from a diverse range of sources so that you never have to rely on a single source of revenue. Even if you hope that a single funder will be key to your program or project, contributors are more confident of projects or programs that demonstrate other sources of support. And it also saves you, like I just heard about one of our program support grantees from last year, just lost funding from a corporation that has shifted their priorities. So you just don't want to be left unawares, and you really need to look at diversifying your revenues.
Now we'll talk about what the devil is in kind. Anne wanted me to say that, I'm sure. In-kind gifts are contributions of goods or services other than cash grants. Examples are food, supplies, an accountant that provides services, or some other, consulting service. Two things about in-kind goods and services. In-kind goes in as income and comes out as an expense at the same dollar amount. This dollar amount should represent the fair market value of the in-kind goods or services.
And Issa, I just want to add this. So when you're working on your budget and you've got something, so let's say that Burger King has decided to contribute like everything delicious that they make. Do they make delicious things? So they're going to contribute that. You need to, whether it's for an individual artist or for an organization, you need to mark that both in the expense side of your budget and the income side of your budget. So I hope that makes sense, because you're showing that that money's coming in and you're showing that that money's going out. So that really, like, it makes your budget really equal. I hope that makes sense. A balanced budget. For your RAC application, excuse me, you will need to submit a budget where the income equals the expenses. That's very important. Other funders may accept budgets where income exceeds expense, but you have to have a balanced budget. Your income equals your expenses.
Perfect. And for the budget narrative, the budget narrative will just explain how the costs were estimated. It just justifies the need for the cost. It can just provide some explanation to, what is majorly numbers in a budget spreadsheet.
Exactly. And there's room in the application for you to do that.
Yes. And then finding the RAC templates for the budget. So this is just a screenshot of our website that I got this morning. And so you can see that under the description for artist support and program support, which are parallel on the page, that right under helpful resources, we provide a PDF and an Excel link to the budget template. Those have been live. You can find those right now and take a look at the budget. You can pull it up as we look at it on these next couple of slides.
And now I'm going to go over briefly the artist support grant budget and also the program support grant budget. We've tried to keep the structure to both of those budget templates very simple in structure. And just remember that you can add or delete lines as needed in those forms. So make it work for you. In the artist support grant application budget, you will put your name and your project title at the top there. And then you'll have a space for all of your expenses. And if you've got other things that you want to add a title to, you may do that. So there's a place for artist fees. Remember to pay yourself, and other things. If you've got partners that you're paying, or if you're applying as an artist collective, you can do that. There's also space for materials, production materials, equipment, software, and supplies. In the workspace, there's room to put a line item in there for your rent, your utilities, and anything else that is affiliated with your workspace. For travel, this is not your vacation to Morocco. This are travel costs for your for the purpose of enhancing your practice, and that includes the actual travel, the lodging and meals, and other entities that you may need to budget for. Do you need to do promotion and publicity for what you're doing? So do you have advertising or printing or documentation costs? Do you have opening or special events that you need to pay for? Do you have professional fees, which could include consultants, web designers, etc.? Are there administrative costs that you will incur, such as office supplies, or maybe you're hiring a studio assistant, or other items? Excuse me. And then there's the expense side, which is a little bit smaller for the artist support grants. And that includes, do you have other grants that are coming in? Are there sponsorships? Do you have individual contributions, which could include crowdfunding or commissions? Do you have earned income, which would mean the sale of your work, or ticket income or royalties? And then you'll add these things up, and what you don't have will be your Regional Arts Commission request, and that can be up to $7,500. And remember that the request that you make, if you get funded, you will either get all of that request or none of it. So just be aware of that. And then you'll put your total income and your income minus your expenses. I'm going to go over briefly the program support grant budget overview. Again, put your organization name, the program title, and that should be the same as on your application. Under salaries and wages, there's space for administrative salaries and benefits, program salaries and benefits, artist fees and honoraria, contracted services, and other. There's a program and administrative expenses. So that's rent, facility-related expenses, office supplies, non-employee related insurance, publicity and marketing, program-related fundraising, program supplies, equipment rental, legal and accounting services, artist-related travel and lodging, program documentation, evaluation, and other expenses. Then you add that together, you've got room for your in-kind goods and services. And then you get to your income, where you'll look at earned income, which could mean ticket sales and admissions, tuitions, concession or merchandise sales, and other earned income. Is there private support? That could be under the categories of corporate, foundation, individuals, or program-related fundraisers. Is there public support? Are you getting money from the NEA or other federal outfits? Are you getting Missouri Arts Council money? And are you getting other local money in addition to RAC? Then other is applicant cash. Perhaps you've been saving a little bit of reserve and you need to spend that money on your program, or if there's an other that you can add in there. And then you've got your in-kind goods and services, and then your Regional Arts Commission request, and then you add that all together. So I think that explains it. I want you to remember to check your math, to be ambitious and to be practical in your planning. Have a rational set of numbers to back up your request. A budget is a roadmap. Plan, follow through, and change route when needed. As your program or project gets started, refer to your budget to track your progress. Is your funding coming in as expected? What are the changes you may need to make as your plans become reality? And this is very important. Always alert a funder to major changes as soon as they happen. For instance, we've had several artists and even programs that gave us their budget last year when they were in the planning process. And now that the grant is made to them, they're finding that there's some shifts that could either be on the expense side or the income side. And how are you going to adjust that? And how are you going to cover that? So just let us know when those kind of things are happening.
And then we've got here our contact information. For any technical questions with the application or with Blackbaud, our grants management system, please email ms_racstl_grantmaking@blackbaud.com. And then, of course, if you have any process questions, feel free to email myself or Ann. And I believe we'll open it up for questions now if we've got any in the Q&A. Please take your time to send them in, and I'll just leave it on this contact information slide. So if anybody wants to email us, follow up that way, give us a phone call, they can.
Great. Thanks, Chloe. We've got a couple questions here. Sherry asks, do admin salaries include contracted individuals, and how different from program salaries? I would say that your admin salaries could include, it's just the way you fill that budget out, could include those contracted individuals, but I think there's also space on there. Just let us know and just be very clear how that is. And as long as it is all related to your program, then it's going to work for us. And I hope that explains that, Sherry. Justin asked, for the artist support, if the need I'm applying for is a component of a larger project, should I include a line item view of the entire project budget or just a breakout of expenses that I'm wanting to be covered by the grant? For example, let's say the overall project budget is $50,000, but the need is $5,000. That's a good question, Justin. I would venture to say that I think it would be very nice if you gave us the whole overview of the project, that whole $50,000, and then just made your request for that need of $5,000. But I think it's good to see the complete package and to see how that fits into the overall. I hope that answers your question. Chloe, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, just I would say that, of course we want to see, the most of your program. So, I mean, I would definitely suggest doing, the entire project budget. And, we like to know what you're doing because we like to show it off and feature it. So of course we want to know the whole process and the whole program that you're presenting.
Absolutely. Andrew asked, for paying yourself, what constitutes as time clocked in? I say, Andrew, that's up to you. That is a whole other subject that I'm not really prepared to cover during this workshop. So I think you need to figure out what it is, what your annual salary could possibly be, and then how much time it's going to take you to do this particular project, if you're applying for a project through this. But we're not going to keep track of your time clocked in or out. That's up to you. A next question, for artist project support, does dissemination of work have to occur primarily in St. Louis? I would say yes to that question. Your creation of it would certainly have to happen here. If your dissemination is national, I think that's great, but I think what we're most interested in, oh, that's a tricky question, but I think what we're most interested in is that local impact. But we're very proud of you if you've got, national or even regional impact, and just outline that in your request as much as you possibly can. Linda asks, is a documentary a project that could be included in a grant application? Absolutely. Tracy asks, for a program grant as a choral group, we put on 2 concerts in the grant's time period. Does your definition of program limit us to applying for only 1 concert, or may we include for the full year's 2 concerts? You may apply for both of those concerts. Your request in the program support cannot be more than $15,000. Andrew, let's see, unrelated to the budget meeting. And we talked about this last week, but wanted to clarify, am I allowed to write this grant for another artist? I realize that I have not been in St. Louis for the last year. Well, you better get back here, Andrew, immediately. I'm kidding. Of course you can write that for another artist, but I think it'll have to be that artist will have to be the contact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really
Yes.
got to be that local focus and that artist that's in St. Louis. I mean, if you're acting as a conduit for that, I think that's fine, but that will be between you and that artist. So Kanya asks, under travel, can I add local travel to meet and visit collaborators and program support individuals and organizations? I think you can. I would make sure that that's very realistic in the whole of your ask. And I would make sure that I outline that when you are addressing particularly that community benefit aspect in the application. No, maybe we've answered all the questions. We'll give it another minute or two. Good questions. And if you have other questions, don't hesitate to contact either Chloe or me if something comes up. And then also, if you have other questions, we'll be meeting on Monday afternoon at 3, Chloe, or 4?
I don't have my calendar open. I
I
think
think
it's
it's 3. Yeah. So if
Okay.
you've got other questions, please come on Monday for the artist support application and come on Tuesday for the program support applications, and we'll be answering those questions. Here's another question. Our project idea is to invite community youth to create art facilitated by an art therapist. So there is no particular artist at our healthcare organization as the point person. Is that okay? I would make sure that you are, I think that's fine, but I would also make sure that there's a focus on the creation of art and how you're going to present that. Chloe, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think my question for Yvonne would be if she's planning for a program support grant or an individual artist support grant. It kind of sounds more like a program support grant to me, which we definitely have applicants write the grants that are not artists themselves, but grant writers. So in that definition, it's completely acceptable. And then I think, as Anne said, if you're an individual artist, you would have to, just kind of be careful about that.
Yeah. It's not an in-person session on Monday, Andrew. It's all virtual. We'll be going over the highlights and then we'll be taking questions.
Great. That was program support.
Yeah. Any other questions? Wow, you made it easy on us today. We look forward to answering more of your questions on Monday or Tuesday of next week. And if all fails there, we can answer those via email. So just get in touch. We look forward to your applications and we want to set you up all for success. So thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.